The galaxy was dying for 800,000 years. Two ancient powers had torn stars from their homes and turned whole worlds into ash. The war had no beginning that anyone could remember. It had no end that anyone could see. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the USS Star Destroyer and watched the latest battle reports scroll across her screen. Another solar system had gone dark. 12 billion lives snuffed out in the space of an hour. The news barely registered anymore. Death on such a scale had become normal. The hegemony of eternal stars controlled the northern spiral arms of the galaxy. They were beings of living crystal, older than most suns. Their ships looked like floating cathedrals made of diamond and light. They had been alive when Earth was still a ball of hot rock. The Void Collective ruled the southern regions. Nobody knew exactly what they were. Some said they were made of dark energy. Others claimed they were the ghosts of the first beings to ever die. Their vessels appeared as tears in space itself, black wounds that hurt to look at. Both sides had weapons that could crack planets like eggs. Both sides had shields that could turn away the fury of stars. Both sides had been killing each other for longer than human civilization had existed. Sarah's hands moved across her command console, calling up tactical displays. The USS Star Destroyer was humanity's newest and largest warship, 2 kilometers of steel and ceramic armor, packed with experimental weapons and shield generators. It had taken 10 years to build and represented the best technology Earth could produce. It was nothing compared to what the aliens had. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 200 years ago. They controlled 12 star systems scattered across a tiny corner of the galaxy. Earth's entire space navy had fewer than 200 ships. The aliens counted their fleets in the hundreds of thousands. "Admiral," her communications officer called out. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Mediation Council." Sarah nodded. The Council was the last neutral organization in the galaxy. A handful of peaceful species trying to keep some small corner of civilization alive while the giants fought their endless war. The main screen flickered to life. A tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms appeared. Sarah recognized him as Counselor Velthak, one of the few beings who still tried to make peace between the warring factions. "Admiral Chen." Velthak's voice was heavy with exhaustion. "I must speak with you urgently. The situation has become critical." "I'm listening, Counselor." Velthak's image glitched as another wave of battle interference swept through space. Both the hegemony and the collective are mobilizing their full forces. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier they possess. Intelligence suggests they are planning a final assault. Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. Final assault on what? On each other. They intend to end this war by destroying their enemy completely. The projected battle zone. Veltak paused, his 4 hands trembling. The projected battle zone includes the entire Nexus sector. Sarah's blood turned cold. The Nexus sector contained 47 inhabited star systems. Earth's local group was right in the middle of it. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Our analysts believe the assault will begin within 72 hours. Both fleets are already moving into position." Sarah stared at the tactical display. Red dots marked hegemony forces moving down from the north. Blue dots showed collective ships rising from the south. Between them, a tiny cluster of green dots marked human space. "Counselor, what does the Mediation Council recommend?" Velthak's expression was bleak. "Evacuation. Immediate evacuation of all inhabited worlds in the projected combat zone. Though I fear there is nowhere far enough to run." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They had heard everything. They knew what it meant. Lieutenant Torres, her tactical officer, spoke first. "Admiral, how many people live in the Nexus sector?" Sarah checked her files. "Approximately 400 billion sentient beings." "And how many evacuation ships would we need?" Sarah did the math in her head. "More than exist in the entire galaxy." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood now. This wasn't about military strategy or territorial disputes. This was about the survival of everything they had ever known. Sarah walked to the observation deck and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 2 armadas larger than anything in human history were preparing to fight. When they clashed, the explosion would be visible from neighboring galaxies. She thought about Earth, blue skies and green forests. Children playing in parks. Her own daughter, safe in a classroom on Luna Colony, learning about the history of their small corner of space. None of it would matter if the ancient powers decided to end their war with fire. Sarah had studied both factions extensively during her 20 years in the Navy. The hegemony fought with precision and overwhelming force. They built massive ships that could withstand incredible punishment and strike back with weapons that turned matter into energy. Their tactics were ancient but effective. The collective preferred subtlety and fear. Their ships could phase in and out of normal space. Their weapons didn't just destroy matter. They erased it from existence entirely. They fought like shadows, striking without warning and vanishing before retaliation could come. Both sides had been fighting for so long that they knew each other perfectly. Every tactic had been tried. Every strategy had been countered. Every weapon had been matched by better defenses. They were locked in a dance of death that had lasted longer than some species had existed. But Sarah noticed something else in her studies, something that neither side seemed to see. They had stopped learning. 800,000 years of war had made them predictable. They fought the same battles over and over, using the same methods, making the same moves. They were ancient and powerful, but they had forgotten how to adapt. Humanity was different. Humans had been fighting each other for their entire history, but they had never stopped changing. Every war taught them something new. Every defeat made them stronger. Every victory showed them a better way. Sarah made her decision. She walked back to the bridge and took her seat in the captain's chair. Around her, 60 officers waited for orders. "Set course for the Nexus sector," she said quietly. Her executive officer, Commander Park, turned to stare at her. "Admiral, did you say the Nexus sector?" "You heard correctly, Commander. But Admiral, that's where the battle will take place. Both alien fleets will be there within 3 days." Sarah nodded. "I know." "Admiral," Lieutenant Torres spoke up from his tactical station. "With respect, what can one human ship do against millions of alien vessels?" Sarah smiled for the first time in hours. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just decided to attempt the impossible. "Lieutenant Torres," she said, "we're going to end an 800,000-year war." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Some looked worried. Others looked excited. All of them looked determined. "Admiral," Commander Park said slowly, "how exactly do we plan to accomplish that?" Sarah stood up and walked to the main tactical display. She pointed at the projected battle zone, where 2 massive fleets would soon meet in the largest battle in galactic history. "We're going to do something neither side expects," she said. "We're going to do something human." The USS Star Destroyer cut through space at maximum speed, heading straight toward the largest battle in galactic history. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the ship's war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the movement of alien fleets. Commander Park entered carrying a stack of data tablets. His face was pale. "Admiral, I have the latest intelligence reports from the Mediation Council." Sarah nodded for him to continue. "The Hegemony fleet consists of 53,000 ships. Their flagship is the Eternal Radiance, a cathedral ship 15 kilometers long. It carries enough firepower to sterilize a solar system." Park activated a hologram showing a massive crystalline vessel that sparkled like a captured star. "The ship's main weapon is called the Genesis Cannon. It fires concentrated stellar energy that can crack a planet's core from half a light year away." Sarah studied the display. The Hegemony ship was beautiful in its own terrible way. It looked like something that should be worshipped, not feared. "What about the collective?" she asked. Park switched to another display. This one showed something that hurt to look at directly. It appeared as a hole in space outlined by crackling dark energy. "The Void Collective's flagship is called the End of Things. We don't have exact measurements because our sensors can't get a proper reading. It seems to exist partially outside normal space." Sarah frowned. "What kind of weapons does it carry?" "That's where it gets scary, Admiral. Intelligence suggests it carries something called reality erasers. These weapons don't just destroy matter. They remove it from existence completely. Anything hit by them never existed at all." The room fell silent. Sarah tried to imagine weapons that could delete things from history itself. Lieutenant Torres spoke up from his station. "Admiral, I've been running combat simulations. Even if we had our entire fleet, we wouldn't last 5 minutes against either flagship, much less both of them." Sarah smiled grimly. "Good thing we're not planning to fight them directly." "Then what exactly are we planning?" Commander Park asked. Sarah walked to the main tactical display. It showed the projected battle zone, a region of space containing 47 star systems. In the center was Earth's local group, including 12 human colonies. Both fleets will arrive at the Nexus sector in 18 hours, she said. They'll position themselves on opposite sides of the combat zone. The battle will begin when they're close enough for their long-range weapons to be effective. Which gives us what opportunity exactly? Park asked. Sarah traced a line on the display right through the middle of the projected battle zone. We're going to position ourselves between them. The room erupted in shocked voices. Admiral, that's suicide, Torres exclaimed. We'll be caught in the crossfire between two Galaxy-class fleets, Park added. Sarah held up her hand for silence. I know how it sounds, but I've been studying both factions for months. I think I've found something nobody else has noticed. She changed the display to show historical battle data. Thousands of engagements spread across 800 millennia of war. Look at their tactics, she said. The hegemony always opens with long-range bombardment, followed by coordinated fleet advances in geometric formations. The collective responds with hit-and-run attacks from multiple vectors, using their phasing technology to avoid direct confrontation. Commander Park studied the data. The patterns are remarkably consistent. Exactly. They've been fighting the same war for so long that they've forgotten how to fight any other way. Every battle follows the same script. Every strategy has been tried and countered so many times that they're locked in a perpetual stalemate. Sarah brought up another display showing human military history. Now look at how humans fight. No two battles are the same. We adapt constantly. We innovate. We do things that make no logical sense, and somehow they work. But Admiral, Torres said, their technology is millions of years ahead of ours. Their ships are larger, faster, better armed, and better defended. True, Sarah agreed. But there's something they don't have that we do. What's that? The element of surprise. Neither side has fought anyone except each other for 800,000 years. They have no protocols for dealing with a third party, no experience fighting someone who doesn't follow their established patterns. Sarah pulled up the specifications for the USS Star Destroyer. Our ship represents 200 years of human military development. Our weapons work on completely different principles than theirs. Our tactics are based on human military thinking, not alien strategic doctrine. You're talking about using asymmetric warfare against galaxy-spanning empires, Park said slowly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Sarah activated a new display showing the USS Star Destroyer's experimental systems. Our hyperspace drive can make micro-jumps faster than anything in the galaxy. Our kinetic weapons use technology neither side has seen before. Our electronic warfare suite can hack into communication networks using human-computer algorithms. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Most importantly, we think differently than they do. They're ancient beings with millions of years of experience. That experience has become a weakness. They can't imagine solutions outside their established patterns. Admiral, Torres said carefully, even if you're right about their tactical limitations, we're still talking about one ship against millions. The math doesn't work, Sarah smiled. I'm not planning to destroy their fleets, Lieutenant. I'm planning to end their war. How? By reminding them why they started fighting in the first place. And then showing them that whatever it was, it's not worth destroying the galaxy. Commander Park looked skeptical. Admiral, these beings have been killing each other since before Earth had multicellular life. What makes you think they'll listen to us? Because, Sarah said, we're going to give them something they haven't had in 800,000 years. Which is? A mirror. We're going to show them what they've become. We're going to make them see their war through fresh eyes. Through human eyes. The ship's communication system chimed. Lieutenant Kim spoke from her station. Admiral, we're receiving another transmission from the Mediation Council. Put it through. Counselor Velthak appeared on the main screen again. He looked even more exhausted than before. Admiral Chen, I must urge you to reconsider your course. Our latest intelligence indicates both fleets are larger than initially estimated. The hegemony has deployed their entire war fleet, over 60,000 ships. The collective has brought forth vessels that our sensors cannot even detect. Sarah nodded. Thank you for the update, Counselor. Admiral, surely you cannot be serious about intervening in this battle. No disrespect to humanity, but your species has been spacefaring for only 2 centuries. These beings have been waging war since before your star was born. Counselor, Sarah said quietly, sometimes the newest perspective is the clearest one. Veltak's forearms gestured in what Sarah recognized as frustrated resignation. If you are determined to proceed with this course of action, the Council will do what it can to assist you. Though I fear we are all witnesses to the end of galactic civilization. The transmission ended. Sarah turned to face her crew. 60 officers stared back at her. Some looked afraid. Others looked determined. All of them looked ready to follow her into the impossible. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "in 16 hours we're going to attempt something that has never been tried in galactic history. We're going to end the longest war ever fought using the one advantage we have over our enemies." "What advantage is that, Admiral?" Commander Park asked. Sarah smiled. "We're human, and humans have never learned to accept the impossible." The USS Star Destroyer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus sector. Admiral Sarah. Chen watched the tactical display update as her sensors swept the surrounding space. What she saw took her breath away. The hegemony fleet stretched across space like a constellation of artificial stars. 60,000 crystalline ships arranged in perfect geometric formations. Each vessel glowed with internal light, creating patterns that were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. On the opposite side of the sector, the Void Collective had arrived. Their ships appeared as dark tears in reality itself. Where the hegemony blazed with light, the Collective absorbed it. The space around their fleet looked empty, as if stars had been stolen from the sky. Between these two massive armadas lay 47 inhabited star systems, 400 billion lives caught in the crossfire of the galaxy's oldest war. "Admiral," Lieutenant Torres reported from his tactical station, "both fleets are moving into attack positions. Estimated time to weapons range is 47 minutes. Sarah nodded. "Take us to position Delta 7. Commander Park looked at his navigation display and his face went pale. "Admiral, that position is directly between the two fleets, and I know we'll be in the direct line of fire when they open their attack. I'm counting on it." The USS Star Destroyer began moving toward the center of the battle zone. As they approached, Sarah's communication officer received a priority transmission. "Admiral, we're being hailed by the Hegemony flagship. Put it through." The main screen filled with an image that hurt to look at directly. Ancient hierarch Zethkalar was a being of living crystal, older than human civilization. His voice resonated like music played on church bells. "Human vessel, you will withdraw from this combat zone immediately." Sarah stood up. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. We have no intention of withdrawing." The crystalline being's form shifted, light patterns racing across his translucent body. "Admiral Chen, your species is young and foolish. This battle is beyond your understanding. Withdraw now or be destroyed." Hierarch Zethkalar, with respect, "This battle threatens the lives of 400 billion innocent beings. That makes it very much our business." "You speak of innocence as if it matters. This war began before your star was born. It will continue after your star dies. You cannot comprehend the forces at work here." Sarah smiled coldly. "Then educate me." The hierarch's form blazed brighter. "The Void Collective are parasites that feed on the death of reality itself. They must be destroyed completely, or they will consume the entire universe. This is not a choice. This is survival." Before Sarah could respond, another transmission cut through the first one. The screen split, showing a second image that was even harder to look at than the first. Void Empress Nethavora appeared as a shadow outlined in crackling dark energy. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere at once. "The crystal-born lie as they always have. They seek to impose their rigid order on all existence. They would turn the galaxy into a tomb of perfect silence. They must be ended." Sarah found herself talking to both faction leaders at the same time. "So you've both been fighting for 800,000 years because each side believes the other is an existential threat to the universe." "The collective devours reality," Zethkalar stated. "The hegemony strangles life with order," Nethavora countered. Sarah looked from one leader to the other. "Has either of you considered the possibility that you might both be wrong?" Both aliens reacted with shock. Zethkalar's crystalline form flickered. Nethavora's shadow writhed. "Impossible," they said almost simultaneously. "Admiral Chen," Zethkalar continued, "you do not understand. We have fought this war for longer than your species has existed. Every strategy has been tried. Every possibility has been explored. Only total victory can bring peace." "And yet," Sarah said, "in 800,000 years neither of you has achieved total victory. Maybe it's time to consider a different approach." "What approach?" Nethavora asked, her voice carrying a note of curiosity. Sarah smiled. Peace. Both leaders began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in denial and outrage. Sarah let them argue for a moment, then cut both transmissions. Admiral, Commander Park said quietly, I don't think they're interested in negotiating. I didn't expect them to be. Not yet? Sarah turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Torres, are our experimental systems ready? All systems show green, Admiral. Though I should mention that half of them have never been tested in actual combat. Today's a good day to find out if they work. How long until the fleets open fire? 38 minutes, Admiral. Sarah walked to the main tactical display. The USS Star Destroyer appeared as a tiny dot between two massive formations. To anyone watching, it looked like a mouse standing between two charging elephants. Helm. Begin evasive pattern alpha. Keep us moving but maintain position between the fleets. Aye. Admiral. The ship began a complex dance through space, never staying in one position for more than a few seconds. Sarah had studied both factions' targeting systems. They were designed to track large, predictable movements. The USS Star Destroyer's rapid micro-jumps would be harder to lock onto. Communications. Open a channel to all ships in both fleets. All frequencies. Channel open, Admiral. Sarah took a deep breath. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the USS Star Destroyer to all vessels in the hegemony and collective fleets. I'm speaking to every captain, every crew member, every soldier preparing for battle. She paused, knowing that millions of beings were listening. You are about to fight in the largest battle in galactic history. Your leaders tell you this battle will end the war. But ask yourselves, how many times have you heard that before? How many final battles have you fought? How many times have you been told that this time, victory is certain? On the tactical display, both fleets continued their advance. But Sarah noticed something interesting. Several ships in each formation had slowed slightly. I am human. My species has been fighting wars for our entire existence. We know what war looks like. We know what war costs, and we know what war becomes when it goes on too long. Sarah walked closer to the communication console. This war has lasted 800,000 years. Most of you have never known peace. Neither have your parents. Neither have their parents. For hundreds of thousands of generations, your peoples have known nothing but killing and dying. More ships were slowing now. Sarah could see gaps forming in both formations. What are you fighting for that's worth 800,000 years of death? What prize is so valuable that you would trade the lives of countless billions to win it? What victory could possibly justify the cost you have already paid? The tactical display showed both fleets entering weapons range. But instead of opening fire immediately, they hesitated. 22 minutes to weapons range, Torres reported, but his voice was uncertain. Sarah continued her broadcast. I know what your leaders tell you. They say the enemy is evil. They say the enemy will destroy everything you hold dear. They say you have no choice but to fight. She paused again, letting the words sink in. But what if they're wrong? What if there is another choice? What if the greatest enemy you face is not each other but the war itself? On the screen, Sarah could see individual ships breaking formation. Not many, but enough to create confusion in the perfect geometric patterns both sides preferred. I am not asking you to surrender. I am not asking you to betray your people. I am asking you to think. I am asking you to remember that somewhere beneath all this hatred and fear, you are fighting for the same thing, the survival of everything you love. Sarah nodded to Lieutenant Torres. Prepare all weapon systems. Set targeting solutions for the command ships of both fleets. Admiral, are we actually going to attack both sides? Sarah smiled grimly. Lieutenant, we're about to do something that hasn't been done in 800,000 years. We're going to give this war a good kick in the teeth and see what happens. 15 minutes to weapons range, Torres reported. Sarah opened the communication channel one more time. This is Admiral Chen to both fleet commanders. You have 15 minutes to call off this attack. If either fleet opens fire, the USS Star Destroyer will engage both targets simultaneously. Both alien leaders responded immediately, their voices overlapping in outrage and disbelief. You dare threaten us? Seth Kalar's crystalline form blazed with fury. One primitive ship against two galactic fleets. Nethavora's shadow writhed with dark amusement. Sarah cut both transmissions and turned to her crew. All hands prepare for combat. We're about to find out if humans can teach the galaxy's oldest warriors something new about war. The first shot came from the hegemony fleet. A lance of concentrated starlight erupted from their flagship and streaked toward the collective formation. At the same moment, reality twisted as the Void Collective returned fire with a beam of pure darkness that seemed to erase space itself. Admiral Sarah Chen watched both attacks pass within kilometers of the USS Star Destroyer. She had positioned her ship at the exact point where both fleets' opening salvos would cross paths. "All weapons open fire," she commanded. The USS Star Destroyer erupted with fury. Kinetic rounds fired from railguns punched through space at incredible speeds. Plasma torpedoes blazed toward targets on both sides. Energy beams designed with human technology lashed out at crystalline and shadow ships alike. Direct hits on the hegemony cruiser Radiant Dawn, Lieutenant Torres reported. "Their shields are down 50%. Collective destroyer is phasing in and out of normal space," another officer called. "Our exotic matter rounds are disrupting their phase drive." Sarah smiled grimly. Neither side had expected weapons that worked on completely different principles than their own. The hegemony's energy shields, designed to stop alien plasma weapons, couldn't effectively block solid kinetic rounds. The collective's phasing technology faltered when hit with exotic matter that existed partially outside normal space. But the USS Star Destroyer wasn't trying to destroy enemy ships. Sarah had given very specific targeting orders. "Target their communication arrays," she ordered. "Disable their command and control systems. Make it impossible for them to coordinate their attacks." The human ship danced through space between the two massive fleets, moving in patterns that neither side could predict. While both alien races favored orderly formations and predictable movements, the USS Star Destroyer used chaos as its ally. Microjump to port. Fire a salvo at a hegemony command ship. Microjump to starboard. Launch torpedoes at a collective communication vessel. Microjump forward. Disable a sensor array. Jump backward. Knock out a coordination node. "Admiral, both fleets are trying to target us," Torres reported, "but they can't get a lock on our position. Their targeting systems are designed for large-scale fleet actions," Sarah explained. "They're not built to track a single small target moving unpredictably." On the tactical display, both alien fleets were beginning to show signs of confusion. Ships that should have been moving in perfect formation were starting to drift out of position. Communication between vessels was becoming sporadic. The careful coordination that both sides relied on was breaking down. 37 minutes elapsed, Commander Park announced. Sarah nodded. She had planned for a 50-minute engagement. They were on schedule. "Open a channel to all ships again," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." Sarah's voice carried across space to millions of alien warriors. "This is Admiral Chen. For 37 minutes, you have been watching one human ship disrupt the largest battle in galactic history. We are not using superior technology. We are not using overwhelming force. We are using something else entirely." Explosions blossomed around the USS Star Destroyer as both sides tried desperately to destroy the small ship that was causing so much chaos. But every shot missed. Every missile went wide. Every energy beam struck empty space. We are using unpredictability. We are using adaptation. We are using the one thing that 800,000 years of war has taken away from you, the ability to think differently. Sarah gestured to Lieutenant Torres, who activated a new system they had been saving for this moment. "What we're about to show you has never been used in galactic warfare," Sarah announced. "It's called psychological warfare." The USS Star Destroyer suddenly began broadcasting on every communication frequency used by both fleets. But instead of Sarah's voice, the broadcast contained recordings of the private command channels from both sides. Hegemony ship captains could suddenly hear collective commanders discussing their fears about the endless war. Collective officers heard hegemony leaders expressing doubt about their ancient cause. Both sides listened as their enemies revealed themselves to be not monsters, but beings who were just as tired of fighting as they were. "Impossible," Hierarch Zethkalar's voice echoed across the hegemony fleet. "How did they penetrate our secure channels?" "Human computer algorithms," Sarah responded on an open frequency. "We've been listening to both of you for the past hour. Did you know that your tactical discussions are remarkably similar? You're both worried about casualties. You're both questioning whether this battle will really end the war. You're both starting to wonder if peace might be possible." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Ships on both sides began to slow their advance. Weapons that had been charging to fire were powered down. Formations that had been tightening for attack began to spread out. 43 minutes elapsed, Park reported. Sarah opened her communication channel one more time. Fleet commanders, this is your final warning. Call off this attack now, or I will do something that has never been done in the history of galactic warfare. What could you possibly do that would matter? Void Empress Nethvora demanded. I'm going to patch your private command frequencies directly into each other. For the first time in 800,000 years, you're going to have to talk to each other. Before either leader could object, Sarah nodded to her communications officer. Suddenly, the command bridges of both flagships were connected by an open channel. For several seconds, neither Hierarch Zethkalar nor Void Empress Nethvora spoke. They simply stared at each other across the vast gulf of space and time that had separated them for so long. Finally, Zethkalar's crystalline form flickered with what might have been uncertainty. You look tired. Nethvora's shadow writhed slowly. 800,000 years is a long time to be afraid. Afraid? Zethkalar's voice carried surprise. You have been afraid? Of course I've been afraid. Afraid that you would succeed in turning the galaxy into a crystal tomb. Afraid that everything that makes life worth living would be regulated into silence. Nethvora paused. Have you not been afraid? Zethkalar was quiet for a long moment. I have been afraid that your chaos would consume everything. That reality itself would collapse into void and madness. That order and peace would be impossible forever. Sarah listened to this exchange with growing amazement. In less than a minute, two beings who had been trying to destroy each other for longer than most species had existed were actually communicating. 48 minutes elapsed. Park announced quietly. Sarah made her final move. Fleet commanders, I want both of you to look at your tactical displays. Really look at them. What do you see? Both alien leaders studied their screens, showing the positions of their vast fleets. I see our forces in position to finally end this war, Zethkalar said. I see the same, Nethvora agreed. Now look at the center of your displays, Sarah continued. Look at what you're both pointing your weapons at. There was silence as both leaders realized what Sarah meant. Between their two fleets lay 47 star systems containing hundreds of worlds and billions of lives. You're not fighting each other anymore, Sarah said quietly. You're fighting over the galaxy itself. And if you continue this battle, there won't be a galaxy left to save. The tactical display showed something unprecedented. Ships from both fleets were standing down. Not all of them, but enough to matter. Enough to break the perfect formations that both sides required for their battle plans. 49 minutes elapsed, Park announced. Sarah stood up and addressed both fleet commanders one final time. Hierarch Zethkalar, Void Empress Nethvora, you have 1 minute to make a choice that will determine the future of galactic civilization. You can continue this war and destroy everything you've been fighting to protect. Or you can choose something that hasn't been tried in 800,000 years. What is that? Both leaders asked simultaneously. Sarah smiled. Peace. On the tactical display, more and more ships were powering down their weapons. The inexorable advance of both fleets was slowing to a stop. 50 minutes elapsed, Commander Park announced. At exactly 50 minutes and 7 seconds after the USS Star Destroyer had opened fire, Admiral Sarah Chen gave her final order of the battle. All weapons, cease fire. Stand down to defensive positions. The USS Star Destroyer's guns fell silent. Around it, two of the largest fleets in galactic history hung motionless in space, their weapons pointed at each other but no longer firing. For the first time in 800,000 years, the galaxy's oldest war had stopped. The silence that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Two massive fleets, millions of ships carrying billions of warriors, hung motionless in space. For the first time in 800,000 years, no one was shooting. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the USS Star Destroyer and watched the tactical display. Red and blue dots representing the alien fleets remained in position, but they were no longer moving toward each other. The inexorable dance of death that had consumed the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed had simply stopped. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres whispered, as if speaking too loudly might break the spell. Both fleets are holding position. No weapon signatures detected, Sarah nodded. The hard part was over. Now came the harder part, making the peace last. Communications, open a three-way channel. I want to speak to both fleet commanders simultaneously. Channel open, Admiral. The main screen split to show both alien leaders. Hierarch Zethkalar's crystalline form seemed dimmer than before, his inner light flickering with uncertainty. Void Empress Nethivora's shadow had become less defined, the dark energy around her swirling more slowly. Fleet commanders, Sarah began. You have just accomplished something that many believed was impossible. You have stopped an 800,000-year war without either side being destroyed. Zethkalar's form shifted, patterns of light moving across his crystal body. Admiral Chen, what you have done here, it should not have been possible. One ship against 2 galactic fleets. We did not use superior firepower to stop your war, Sarah replied. We used something else entirely. We reminded you that you are not monsters. You are beings who have been trapped in a cycle of violence for so long that you forgot there were other options. Nethivora's shadow writhed thoughtfully. You made us hear each other's voices. For the first time in memory, we heard our enemy speak of fear and doubt and weariness. We heard ourselves. Sarah walked closer to the communication console. Both of your peoples are tired of war. We could hear it in every transmission, see it in every tactical decision. Your soldiers don't want to fight anymore. They want to go home. But the fundamental differences between our species remain, Zethkalar pointed out. The collective still represents chaos and entropy. The hegemony still seeks order and stability. These philosophies cannot coexist. Cannot coexist or have never been allowed to coexist? Sarah asked. What if instead of seeing your differences as threats, you saw them as strengths? Both alien leaders stared at her in confusion. Sarah brought up a display showing the galaxy itself. Look at your territories. The hegemony controls systems that need order and structure. The collective governs regions that thrive on change and creativity. You're not competing for the same resources or the same space. You're managing different parts of the galaxy according to their different needs. She paused, letting the implications sink in. What if you were never meant to be enemies? What if you were meant to be partners? The silence stretched for several minutes. Both leaders seemed to be processing an idea that had never occurred to them in 8 centuries of warfare. Finally, Nethivora spoke. You suggest that order and chaos might work together? I suggest that the galaxy is large enough for both, Sarah replied, and complex enough to need both. Zethkalar's form flickered with what might have been surprise. The idea is, not without merit. There are regions of space that have suffered under rigid order. Perhaps they would benefit from controlled change. And there are systems that have descended into destructive chaos, Nethivora admitted. Perhaps they require structure and stability, Sarah smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped to hear. Fleet commanders, I propose that we move beyond this battlefield and begin discussions about a more permanent solution. The Galactic Mediation Council has facilities that could host peace negotiations. Peace negotiations. Zethkalar repeated the words as if they were foreign concepts. We have not spoken of peace in 800,000 years, Nethivora finished. It seems almost impossible to imagine. Everything seems impossible until someone does it, Sarah said. 3 hours ago, stopping this war seemed impossible. Yet here we are. Commander Park stepped forward and handed Sarah a data tablet. Admiral, we're receiving communications from individual ships in both fleets. They're requesting permission to return to their home systems. Sarah looked at the alien leaders. Your crews want to go home. They want to see families they've been separated from for decades. They want to walk on solid ground and breathe natural air, and remember what they're fighting to protect. Both leaders consulted their own tactical displays. Sarah could see the strain in their expressions as they realized how tired their own people had become. Perhaps, Zethkalar said slowly, a temporary ceasefire would allow for proper consideration of these proposals. A ceasefire would provide time for both sides to consult with their governing councils. Nethivora agreed. Sarah felt a surge of hope. How long would you need for such consultations? Both leaders looked at each other, apparently realizing they were actually negotiating instead of fighting. The Hegemony Council would require at least 6 standard months to consider such a fundamental change in policy. Zethkalar said, the Collective Assembly would need similar time. Nethivora added, then I propose a 6-month ceasefire, during which both sides withdraw to defensive positions within their own territories. The Galactic Mediation Council can facilitate ongoing communications and prepare for formal peace negotiations. Sarah took a deep breath. Do both commanders agree to these terms? For several seconds, neither alien spoke. Sarah could almost feel the weight of 800,000 years of warfare pressing down on this moment. Finally, Hierarch Zeth Kalar's crystalline form pulsed with gentle light. The hegemony agrees to a 6-month ceasefire. Void Empress Nethivora's shadow seemed to stabilize, becoming more defined and less chaotic. The collective accepts these terms. The bridge of the USS Star Destroyer erupted in quiet celebration. Sarah's crew had just witnessed the end of the longest war in galactic history. Fleet commanders, Sarah said formally, by the authority of the Galactic Mediation Council, and in the name of all peaceful species, I declare the 800,000-year war to be suspended pending peace negotiations. Both alien leaders nodded solemnly, then closed their communications channels to begin the massive task of ordering their fleets to stand down. Sarah turned to face her crew. 60 officers who had risked everything on the belief that one small ship could change the course of galactic history. Lieutenant Torres, she said with a smile, please note in the ship's log that the USS Star Destroyer concluded the 800,000-year galactic war in exactly 50 minutes and 7 seconds. Torres grinned as he made the entry. Logged, Admiral, though I doubt anyone will believe it. Commander Park stepped beside Sarah as they watched the alien fleets begin their withdrawal. Admiral, what made you think this would work? Sarah looked out at the stars, where countless ships were turning away from battle for the first time in longer than most species could remember. Sometimes, Commander, the biggest problems have the simplest solutions. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to try something that seems impossible. She paused, watching as ships that had been enemies moments before passed each other peacefully in space. And sometimes, the most powerful weapon isn't technology or firepower. Sometimes it's just giving people permission to stop fighting and start talking. 3 months later, the first formal peace negotiations in 800,000 years began on Earth. The sight of hegemony and collective delegates sitting at the same table, working together to solve galactic problems, became the symbol of a new age. The war was over. The peace would be harder to build than the war had been to end. But for the first time in longer than anyone could remember, the galaxy had hope. And it all started with one human ship that refused to accept that some things were impossible.